What can I say about my next guest that probably hasn't been said already? So I'm just going to say it. He's a hip-hop god. He's CL Smooth, and I want to welcome him to the library with Tim Einenkel. Thank you so much for being here.
Bless you.
So, I'm going to try to go all over the place in this interview with you. But I remember I was reading an interview about a collaboration you did with DJ Krush in '96, Only the Strong Survive.
Right.
And a lot of that came from traveling around and meeting different people. And so now we're at a place where you don't have to travel around to meet fellow artists, right? You mean SoundCloud and whatnot, whatever. Do you remember this collaboration? But also, are there collaborations, can you take us back into are there collaborations that kind of just happened because you were in the studio at one time and so-and-so happened to be in the second studio, and from a fan's perspective, we were like, oh, they must have reached out to each other and blah, 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 but they were just there together.
Well, to answer your first question, traveling the world and meeting DJ Krush, which is a Japanese DJ, and seeing his work and seeing how he moves a crowd, I just wanted to collaborate with him. He was a great creative director of music, and just the collaboration alone, it just felt like it was not a song that you would hear in the neighborhood, but a song that you would hear all around the world that would reach different genres of people who may not know rap, but may not listen to hip hop, but get introduced by his lane and the way he does things. Going into the studio, and I can only recall listening to jazz. I love jazz. So anything related to jazz is like a big deal to me. Greg Osby, him in a different studio and working on some stuff and just meeting him and getting introduced to the way he does things.
What is it about, for you, I mean, what is it about jazz that kind of, talks to you as an artist? As what is it, what is jazz able to say that you think maybe even rap lyrics can't say?
I think it speaks volumes about the waves of life and the ups and downs of it and the ins and outs of it, but more the inside of how you should feel and what you feel like and what the sounds of what you feel like with passion. That's what jazz equates to me.
Oh, wow. I want to take us back to 91. And so 91, I'm obviously 21 now, but no, I was 91, I was whatever, maybe 12. So at that time, you collaborated with Heavy D and the Boys, with Big Daddy Kane,
Right.
Grand Booba, Coogee Rap, Q-Tip on the track Don't Curse.
Right.
And obviously you hear that just in music in general, music is an art form, you express it. You curse as much as you want, you curse as little as you want.
Right.
But can you kind of take us back to what was happening in 91 that said we need a track titled Don't Curse, and it's essentially about, not cursing?
Well, of course, working with Heavy D was not only an honor, but you got to learn how creative he was in his approach to music and the music business. So having a song like that, of course, coming out of the 80s and infusing into the 90s, there was this new genre of how to make music. And what this did was just bring the old guard in with the new and pass the torch and just give you an enlightenment on how creative hip-hop is and how conscious it is at that time, where it would bring out messages, and the messages were so clear and so poignant that it only had a farther appreciation for it and giving it the name 90s Golden Era.
All right. Is that a tough concept to bring to an artist? The concept being all right, you're gonna write a rhyme and you're not gonna be able to do any there's not gonna be throwaway words because you're not gonna, throwaway word being curse. Is that a challenge as an artist to write something that, not essentially not say, oh fuck, that type of stuff?
Yeah. I don't think it's a challenge. I think what the challenge was in that particular situation of making a song was he picked mostly all the guys that cursed.
Yeah, right.
So to have a song "Don't Curse" and you pick mostly all the guys that have
Curse.
the language
Yeah.
barriers, it was kind of interesting and creative at the same time. So that's what gave the song such validity, such weight into the industry that had primarily a lot of explicit cursing.
In '92, when I want to ask you about Large Professor because
Right.
what a lot of people don't understand about, and this is not your album, but about Large Professor and Nas's Illmatic is that he is so prevalent to that album because he's the one who brought Nas into like studio sessions with Rakim, with and thus creating this kind of MC we know today as Nas. In '92, when you worked with him, what did you know about him prior to it? What was he? I mean, was he, how big of a deal was he then? And what were your first impressions when you started working with him?
My first impression was he was down to earth and humble, and anybody that was around him was that receptive. His family, his brothers. So that's something I could relate to because I was down to earth. This rap is something you do, but it's also something you live, and I saw that he was a real guy that lived what everything he was saying in his experiences in life.
Something I loved what you did is when you collaborated with the Cradle Orchestra, and I'm a huge fan of violins and
Yes.
hip hop and
Right.
and rap, and I think they just go perfect together. What was that? Well, one, just talk about that collaboration, but two, as writing process for you. How different is it, or similar to when someone gives you a beat to write versus hearing a live orchestra play for you and trying to like write to that?
Well, I don't think it's any different. It's just when you're performing it, when you're recording it, when you're in that moment. And each moment is a process, and each moment has its own identity. So when you go into the studio and your writing process may be taking it home and writing it, opposed to writing it right there. And that's the way, that's the balances of that. And then you have this beautiful orchestra, which all the samples that you've embedded in your head now come to life.
Right.
And now you have to. Now it's projecting. Everything is more alive than ever. And then you deliver, and you really find out where you belong in it, opposed to saying, "Okay, on a sample, all I have to do is play my role. In this,
Right.
I have to literally be an instrument as well."
Right. Now, and is there? No, that's the amazing thing is that when you listen to it, and listen to what you did, you're like, oh wow, CL became one of the instruments.
Instrument.
And you do it really well.
Thank you.
Which is so it's like a go-to track. Is there a? I mean, for me, if I knew how to rhyme, which I don't, is there a go-to instrument that you kind of just, I guess, fell in love with in terms of like, as an MC, what like I if I'm doing a live performance again, I need this instrument in my performance.
I would have to say clearly a saxophone. Any horn instrument is like a signature for me to either go to war, make love, process what's going on in the world, politics.
Nice.
That horn is what represents the forefront of what I'm trying to bring out in my creative process.
Speaking of politics, and it's not talking about political agenda, but also but in terms of hip hop, role of hip hop in 2011 when you collaborated with the Roots on the track Our Generation, it was a very empowering track, very uplifting track. What role, when you first got into hip hop, what role in rap, what role did you see or think hip hop culture and rap music should play in our society or world? And how has that changed or stayed the same as you've gotten older and more experienced with this?
Well, of course, growing up and loving that type of music where it wasn't accepted in the beginning, it was sort of like a rebellious youth movement more than per se hip hop and what the culture meant. It wasn't about the culture. It was a culture that was basically had people had to get used to it. It was more like a culture shock than a culture enhancement. But as time went on, you saw the difference of what politics had played in life because it made guys in the street want to be legitimate
Right.
and discover that in many of times and situations of life and death and prison and crime, that we have talent in these areas of people that have all these expressions and all this stuff to say, but no outlet. And now here comes the culture of hip hop that gives you an outlet, that gives you a platform to speak on, and it just saved a whole lot of lives. Now, in today's society, which you can speed up 25 years later and you say, well, what does it do for society?
Right.
It's what society is done for the music, more or less, because society has taken over a level of standards that some people can meet and other people can't.
Right.
So it's a balance, and the hip hop generation plays a big role in society, even though an older generation can't understand where it's coming from a lot of times because of we didn't have these outlets and so much distraction. I came in an era where you really had to be talented to be discovered, and now it's like anybody can have a platform because of social media,
Right.
and anybody can be heard because of the networking of social media. So, times have changed, but what you have to do is you have to embrace the messages, and whatever messages are involved in pieces of it, you have to get out of it. It is what structures America, is what changes America's mind.
Did you ever think that, it would be when you first, when you were drawn to it and you wanted to do this, did you ever think 25 years later that it was going to be this big and, the most popular genre of music out there?
No, I really didn't. I just knew that it was special. I just knew that it was a platform that I wanted to join and that I wanted to be heard. And I felt that I had a voice that can contribute to the culture. But as you're growing up and you see all these great groups like Run DMC and Houdini and Public Enemy and I mean, you can't hope but be overwhelmed by, the impact that it has on you and how it reflects on everyday life that you can relate to.
I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned Run DMC, and you of course collaborate with them as well.
Right.
I feel like that's that's the oh shit moment of being like, holy crap, I'm collaborating with
I know
legends.
just what you mean.
When that happened, when that call happened, hey, we want you on this. What was your first reaction? And then two, writing for this track. I mean, do you put extra pressure on yourself? Did you put extra pressure on yourself because you're collaborating with the kind of god of rap?
I think it was when I got the call and we went to go visit Russell. And this is the time where Russell was living in Cher's old loft. So we're up there with Russell, and, he has no shoes on, and he's so relaxed, and he's just, we're going to have you do a record with the guys, like it's no problem. And we're just like, and in my mind, I'm saying, if this ever happens, I made it.
Right.
I'm officially in this fraternity of music, because I remember these guys rolling past me on the street, and now this is happening. So it was just like a rite of passage for me. it made it everything official from that point on.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I just imagine just like, I don't know. I mean, the pressure to put on yourself in terms of like, because you kind of want to. I would imagine you want to prove yourself to them, right? Or you want, I mean, obviously you're getting the call, so you've already kind of proved yourself that you're worthy of the call and worthy of actually being considered to be on this track. But once that makes it happen, I can't imagine what you're going through in terms of like penning and drafts and stuff like that.
I think what was awesome was that they actually were asking me my opinion on.
That's crazy. That's great.
They're critiquing their work, and I was just in awe of that. How they can ask me, is that good, or how should I approach this? Just asking me my opinion was like a dream come true, and it just puts you on a platform of these are the Michael Jordans, these are the big boys of the game that I've always wanted to play, and now I'm playing with them.
In 2008, you did an interview with a guy who we co-host. He's on rapstation.com with Chuck and D, and his name is Flatline, Hip Hop Gods. And he talked about having to take a break from music. If you talk about what was that moment for you that you realized you kind of, I think you said you lost yourself. You kind of, you realized you were losing yourself and you needed that break. Was it during a writing process? Was it just kind of like, someone called you out on, I mean, a family friend or, somebody you respect called you out and said, hey, I don't know who you are anymore?
No, I think it was just the culmination of the downside of my group, a legendary group that I worked hard with. And we were on the downslope of a breakup. And I just needed a break. Everything was coming at me so much differently than when I didn't have money. Everything seemed to stay in front of me. Now I couldn't keep anything in front of me. I couldn't keep everybody happy. I couldn't please everybody. And to the point where money wasn't making me happy. Music wasn't making me happy. I needed to find my common ground, my situation that allowed me to love music and fall in love with music and fall in love with myself. Because everything is about a vibe and an emotion and a thought process. Because when you can't think, you can't create.
Sure. Is that why? I mean, what's interesting is that you look at your Instagram feed and a lot and a good amount of it is about your workout.
Right.
And totally get working out makes your mental so much better.
Right.
If you don't work out, and I know this from my wife, you get very grumpy.
Right.
So that's why also I bike to work and try to, But so when did your kind of your workout regimen begin? When did you start getting most serious about it? But then when did you start realizing how this had a real positive effect on you as an artist?
I think, many artists that become veterans of the game, when you start out, you have this youthful, vibrant reverberation in performance, in critiquing what you're doing, in the moment of what you're doing. And as you grow and develop and get your feet under you, and nothing is more, you tend to get a little bit jaded, and nothing is, it's great, but I'm used to this. When you get to that point, it's almost like you take yourself and you say, wow, I can't get that same thing when I'm older. I'm mature now. How do I handle this in a different nature of things? So it was that struggle of creating a different platform for myself to think and put myself in a position to be greater than I was, not chasing that. And what it does is we all want to be successful at what we do. So when we get older, and I'm speaking of myself now, I want to book 30 shows. I want to. My mind says I can do it, but my body might not be able to do it.
Right.
Okay, I want to sound like the record, but my body might not allow me to sound like the record. I have to train myself. I have to sacrifice. I have to do all these things, go to bed early, eat the right foods. I think I experienced being on tour one time, and I was on stage and everything locked up. So I knew from then on, this is a mental game, and the mental game is about getting your body right. When your body right, your mind will follow, and everything will be in tune and balance with each other. So I take pride. This is the work that you have to put in to be a professional. You have to put in the work. When you're young and you start from the beginning, like I said, it's not a problem because you have that youthful spirit. You have that youthful energy that says everything is new. So even if I'm tired, I still have energy enough to absorb it. Yeah. But as a veteran, you have to work. You have to sacrifice. You have to put everything aside that you would normally do, and you have to stretch, and you have to work, and you have to grind. And this allows me to get on stage and sound like the record and perform the record.
Is this your workout? Is this are you doing are you just strictly doing the workout, or are you also? Is there also times where during your workout a lyric comes to mind or an idea for a song comes to mind, and you have to I don't know, stop, text it to yourself or something like that, or is it really just you focusing on mental health? I mean, health.
Yeah, it's about shutting down everything that's about you and getting into your body and your mind and your soul, because it's not a game. You can be injured. Yeah. You can hurt yourself. So to focus on that allows you to focus on everything else with the same intensity, with the same fervor of trying to get gains. You want to gain knowledge. You want to gain that talent. You want to home in on it. So now you want to be challenged in writing. You don't just want to go in the studio and write. Right. You want to be challenged. You want somebody to critique your work and challenge you. So now instead of writing at home where you have time, I like to write it right there in front of the person, right there. Like I would do everything else. Write it right there.
So you hear the beat.
And you write it right there.
And complete song.
Complete song.
Wow. And then what is so let's go back to that. So when you used to write at home, who was who was your ultimate sounding board in terms of how did you know a body of work was complete back then, and then now who's your ultimate sounding board?
I had a partner back then that we grew from pause button, pausing and pausing and pausing the tape and then making it loop over and over. And as we gradually grew, as I wrote, I may have wrote 2-3 songs a day. And I would go down the hill and record them, and Pete Rock would critique everything I'm doing, everything I'm saying. And he began to listen as an instrument. So now, today, I have a manager and a set team of listeners that listen, but yet challenge you. Mm-hmm. A good friend that challenged me a lot, people don't know about that it has a creative mind of a genius, is Kid from Kid and Play. We go back and forth. He's so knowledgeable, but yet he challenges you to be something different, but yet be yourself, but bring something different every time you get up there, every time you write something. So when you have these elements, I understand that you need people, you need creative people around you to stay creative.
Right.
Whether it's your body, whether it's your mind, whether it's your religion, whether it's just you at home. You need people around you feeding your creativity.
And you're still obviously being creative today. Right. You released a track, Just in Town.
Right.
Can you just talk about that track? Where were you when the idea came for the track? And then what was that for you? I mean, writing and collaboration process like?
Well, my good friend and manager, Black Carl, he had this producer that he grew up with. And, good young guy. And, we traveled out to Pennsylvania and we just put some wine together and smoked some cigars, and we came up with this song. And the producer wanted me to just give me a song that nobody would think is you. And putting that together and just playing with it right there, writing it right there, and just creating. And we came up with like 2 or 3 songs, and those were one of the songs.
Is it hard to, I mean, after all these years, is it hard to think, like, do a song like that that's not a, you know, would not be a CL Smooth song,
Right,
you know?
right.
I mean, how challenging is that for you?
I want to be challenged. I want to be able to change the narrative, push the envelope, so to speak, challenge the system of writing and what is quote unquote your song. Like, somebody will want to give me something to be creative with, but it seems like they would always want to keep me in the 90s with a 90s sounding record like that. Whereas that's not really where I'm at.
Right.
I'm into fashion forward. I'm into pushing the envelope forward into 2020. That's possible. It's about chemistry. It's about a formula. Can you find that formula that suits my voice and my approach and most of all, my creativity in what we're doing?
Speaking of producers and challenges, and this sounds like obviously a good case for one of them, but if you think about the body of producers you've worked with,
Yes.
and it could be this, you know, it could be this one as well, but has there been one that consistently, or, you know, forced you to kind of take your lyricism up a level that you at first didn't know you had?
Yeah, I think when I worked with the Roots and I worked with John Legend on that particular song, I thought I was at a certain level, and then they would make me go back and write it again, and then go back and write it again, and then go back and write. And they made me go back and write it again. And it made me understand that I'm not really on the level that I should be on. I gotta step my game up. I gotta tune into myself. I gotta find something that drives me from here to up here. And once I've accomplished that song, and it gave me a newfound appreciation about artists and how finicky they are and how perfect they want it and how they want it and how you have to accommodate that and you have to fit yourself into that, because it's not only is it a good challenge, it's a great situation, and you don't want to ruin that.
How do you humble yourself? I mean, you know, like, you know, obviously P-Rock, CL Smooth, and, you know, you, bam, you know, and then you come, you know, and then you have artists challenging you and, you know, making you rewrite like 50 times. How do you, as an artist, how do you not let, I guess, your ego get in the way of trying to create good art?
Well, because I just feel like the more humble you are, the more strength you exude in the back end. See, in the front end, you can have all your feelings, but then in the back end, you're always going to change your mind when it comes down off the emotions, and you think about how it is to be humble and put yourself in a position that Jesus would put himself in, and you're not even in the picture of Jesus. Right. So for you to do that only allows you to gain more wisdom in how to feed your ego. But this might not be the particular formula to feed your ego off of. It might be feeding more of your ignorance, because this is the challenge. Having somebody critique your work and not like it until they like it.
That's true. That's good.
So that might have been a first.
I want to go into you're about to do a live performance at SOB's on the 24th of November. Unfortunately I've never been to a live CL Smooth show. It's on my to-do list.
Cool.
Take us into a CL Smooth performance? Like what does the audience get? What do you expect? How do you plan it out?
Well, first of all, I treat every show and every set like a boxing match. You prepare yourself, you prepare your mind, your body, your soul to give it your all, your 100%. And when I get out there, what I do is I try my best and to keep it business, but have so much fun, because what you're doing what you love, and not many people in the world can do what they love to do.
Right.
So while you're doing it, and the great contribution that you made to music and hip hop allows you to work 25 years from now. It allows you to still keep working because you chose the right paths and the right music in life and the right conversation to have in performance. So that's what I think about. I think about winning the crowd and giving the people what they came to see, but just give it a little bit more. Each time you just give a little bit more. And at the end of the show, you feel full, you feel released, you feel like you did your job and you're ready to do it again, just like a boxer does.
You said, as you said, 25 years. What is the kind of the absolute favorite thing about hip hop that you just that will never let you break up with it? That you just keep. That's why you do it.
I think that the underdog is always underestimated, and nobody's keeping score how much they win. Because you come from nothing and then you can have everything. And that's the underdog. And the underdog is always counted out. And then when they win, it just seems like it feels much more better than the favorite.
Crazy. He's the great CL Smooth. It's been an honor to have you on the library with Tim Einenkel. Thank you so much, man. Thank
Blessing.
you.
Yes.
For doing this. Thank
you.
you.
Had a good time.